You're listening to
the Beer O'Clock.
The Beer O'Clock Show.
You're listening to the Beer O'Clock Show.
It's Beer O'Clock, this is the Beer O'Clock Show, and it's great to be back for our 8th season, which is going to be our biggest yet. My name's Mark, and joining me, chomping at the bit with his beer list in hand, it's my beer buddy Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi Mark, how you doing?
Very excited, boy.
I'm extremely excited. It feels like ages since we've recorded a show.
It literally feels like months. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So this is the first episode of season 8, and if you haven't had a look at the beer list yet, you can find it on our website at beeroclockshow.co.uk. It's 20 beers long, and that doesn't include the homebrew special. And we can't wait to have you drinking them alongside us, so be sure to check them out and find out where you can get the beers from. This week's episode features 2 of those beers, so we're going to knock them off at a steady pace. We've got Tiny Rebel's Cwtch, which won CAMRA Champion Beer of Britain at the recent GBBF. We'll talk about that more when we get to it. And 1402 Wai-iti from Brew By Numbers. But before we get to the beers, mate, how's your summer been?
Well, as a direct contrast to yours, mate, mine's been really beery. I know you seem to have been on an abstinence program since we finished season 7.
Yeah, I kind of went off the beer in the hopes of I might lose some weight. It didn't work. I think there's
well,
another
then you
cause.
Can't blame the beer, can
no,
you?
There's another cause somewhere.
So, you've not really drunk very much, have you? Apart from the day where we got together in the summer to do a little bit of recording. I think those were your only beers this summer, weren't they?
Oh, and the live lock-in.
Oh, of course, the lock-in. Yes.
I got my summer's worth into that night, I tell you what.
Mate, honestly, I don't think I've ever seen you drink so much in one sitting. I was incredibly impressed the following morning.
Yeah, I was doing involuntary laps of the bedroom whenever I stood up during the night, rolling around.
That was a great event, though. That was I was going to bring that up as one of my highlights of the summer. Was at the time what we thought was going to be the final lock-in, but halfway through we decided that actually we might do them again.
Yeah, because we're having too much fun.
Yeah, it was a good one, and people can watch that back. It's up on the website. There was some really good debate on the last one, and there was some incredible beers drunk as well. So that was certainly one of my highlights of the summer, mate. So I've got a few others. I've had to make a list because it has been quite a beery summer for me. So first up, right back at the beginning of the summer, was sent some beers by a new brewery called Uprising, who are actually part of the Windsor and Eton brewery. They're kind of like their craft offshoot. They sent me 2 of their new beers called White Riot and Treason. Now, White Riot was so new, in fact, that it was actually sent in a plastic bottle with a screw top lid. Because they had literally poured it straight out of the keg into these bottles. They had no intention of kegging it, and they just wanted to get it out to a few people to try to drink. Mate, it was an absolute stunner of a beer. It really was. It was like kind of a white IPA, kind of wheat hybrid type thing, but it had lots of really orangey flavours going on in there. A really, really enjoyable drink. And the other one they sent through was Treason, which was an IPA, and again, it was everything that I look for in a IPA. It was really hop forward, really flavoursome. So it was really just to say, if you see the Uprising brand anyway, give it a go because it's well worth a shout. So that was one of my early summer highlights. Then kind of more towards the middle of the summer, I went to the London Craft Beer Festival, which was the first time I've been to this one. This was one at the Oval Space in Bethnal Green, where you pay a fee to get in, and then you don't buy beer when you're in there. You get 90ml measures, unlimited 90ml measures, which is okay to a point, because there was quite a group of us that went, and what we found was we actually spent very little time together, because you'd get your 90ml, you'd be almost finishing it, and then you'd be going back to get another one, and consequently where we were stood, there was always people shooting off to refill their beers, and there was no real option to buy a bigger measure or have a bigger measure of beer. So while there was some incredible beers on offer, and I had some real standout beers, I would have liked an option to have bought more than 90 mils, I think, because it was kind of had to keep going back to feel as though I was getting my money's worth.
So you want
Almost.
a larger beer to have a conversation over?
Yeah, but that being said, that it was in a very small space with a DJ playing banging beats. I think that the kids call them these days. But I think we'll come on to that a little bit later on in
Sure.
tonight's show. But just in terms of the beers, just a couple of standouts that I wanted to mention: Thornbridge and Wild Beer collaboration Tart, which was really nice. A Bakewell sour. So a nice play on the name Bakewell Tart. That was a really good example of a good English sour beer. Beavertown had their Bone King on, but it was a barrel-aged version. So this was a barrel-aged IPA, which is something I haven't come across before, and it blew me away. It was absolutely incredible. Again, everything I want from a IPA in terms of all the hops and the big bold profiles, but then there was this barrel aging element in the background that worked really well. And then probably one of the standouts was the double milk chocolate caramel stout from Omnipollo, which was like drinking liquid chocolate milk caramel stout milkshake. It was amazing. And then Buxton's Battle Axe, which was a combination of Axe Edge and Battle Horse, two of my favourite beers, kind of that had been blended together in the barrel. And then a beer that we'll be doing later on in this series, Buxton's Yellow Belly, but this was a Sunday version of it. So it was a barrel-aged version of their Yellow Belly peanut butter biscuit imperial stout, which again just absolutely blew my eyes. So some really amazing beers on offer at that festival, and an interesting experience. Not sure it's one that I'll rush to go back to again, but again, as with most of these things, it's the company you keep when you go to them, and I was with a good group of people and we all had a pretty good time. So that was probably my midsummer highlight. And then my final summer highlight was, in direct contrast to the London Craft Beer Festival, was going to my localist beer festival, the Whittam Beer Festival, which was at Whittam Cricket and Hockey Club. And it was just a great evening where we sat in a marquee in a field drinking gravity-pulled cask ales from around Essex and Suffolk, and just enjoying the beer and company and not over-analysing every single sip. I've got to say, I came out there and I was absolutely rotten though. There's a long time since I've had that many pints of cask beer inside of me, but I just really enjoyed just the laid back feel of it.
Yeah, it's good to drink outside of the bubble sometimes, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. It was really good.
Well, before we get to the news, mate, and I'm assuming you've got news after such a long break. Shall we get into the because we have two beers to get through, so we get into the Cwtch.
Let's dive into a Cwtch, yes.
Great. I love this name. So this is Tiny Rebels Cwtch. It is a Welsh red ale, 4.6%. Champion beer of Britain. Now, I'd never heard of this beer before. You told me we were doing it, and that it had won this, I assume, prestigious award at GBBF.
Well, it was a beer that was actually close to appearing on last season, when we did our Six Nations. But at the say of Sparky Wright, who I know is a regular listener to the show, he suggested that we did the Wayans Pamplemousse. So that kind of went in, and this came out, and then obviously over the summer at the Great British Beer Festival, this was announced, to some surprise, I think, from many quarters, the champion beer of Britain. So at the time it was still available on a number of websites, so it was a very late addition to the season 8 beer list, but I thought, what a way to kick off what's going to be our biggest season yet, with the champion beer of Britain.
Yeah, and you can get this from Ales by Mail, so check that out. I assume you can still get it. Let me double check. Just so I'm giving up-to-date information. Yes.
I think Tiny Rebel have done quite well to meet demand on this one.
It's not in stock at Ales by Mail at the moment, but get in touch with them and they'll let you know when it's back in stock. And of course, we've got our discount code for them, which we'll get to later on in the show as well. So, it pours. Nice effervescence coming through. Nice and bubbly. Nice coppery colour. Decent size head on it as well. Pretty
really
active
nice
coming
head
out
on
of the
it.
bottle.
Yeah. It's got a good nose on it as well.
It does.
There's pine. There's some fruit coming out of that. Some dark fruits. A little bit of earthiness towards the end on the aroma. I'm looking forward to this, mate.
Yeah. Well, how about we get into it and then we can start the news. Let's get a
Let's do it.
All right. Cheers, pal.
Cheers. That's really pleasant.
There's a lovely sweetness on that.
It's sweet. It's really soft. The flavours very well balanced in there, and a very easy finish on it as well.
And a muted bitterness that kind of rises up as your palate dries off.
Yeah, it's not overly bitter in any way. Yeah, decent first sip. I look forward to let's just let that sit a little bit while we crack through the news, shall we?
Because you need your post-holiday pips.
I need some post-holiday pippage.
Beep, 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 beep.
Okay, so obviously there's been loads of news while we've been away. So what I've had to do is try and whittle it down to 4 pieces of news. So the lead story, I suppose, is to do with the beer that we're drinking right now. And that's that Tiny Rebel Cwtch won the Champion Beer of Britain at the Great British Beer Festival. And as a result, it means that Tiny Rebel are obviously now thrust into the national spotlight. I mean, not that they weren't anyway. They've been producing very, very good beers for a couple of years now. But this has given them recognition that will really help them to grow as a brewery. So they're looking at expanding their brewery, starting more pubs in Wales. And obviously what they want to do is try and get more of their beers out to people around the country. So, I mean, there's not really too much else we can say about the beer that we won't talk about as we're reviewing it. But great that what many would consider as a craft brewery actually got recognised by CAMRA for the Champion Beer of Britain. So well done to Tiny Rebel for that. Next up on the news, some Brighton news. So we visited Brighton a few months back on our crew. We went to a brew pub called North Lane in Brighton. They are running a new campaign called #Brewed in Brighton. So it's a programme of events running from now well into 2016, including Meet the Brewers. They're doing their own version of Oktoberfest. They're doing pop-up record shops, music weekenders. There's loads of stuff going on around this festival. Sadly, this piece of news that I found doesn't include where you can find more information. So I'm guessing if you just search the hashtag Brewed in Brighton on Twitter, you'll find news of events, or you can just look up North Lane Brewhouse, and I'm sure they'll have an events page on their website. The Rainbow Project is something that we spoke about before. 7 UK brewers paired with 7 US brewers, all brewing beers of different colours and styles and flavours and all sorts. There are a number of events that have been announced while we've been off that are going to happen, and these will be next weekend. So this is weekend of the 19th of September. So there will be an event at Beavertown's Tap Room. There'll be one at Buxton Brewery Tap House. There'll be one at the Magic Rock Tap. I believe Siren are also hosting something, as is the Hanging Bat in Edinburgh. So, again, if you visit Siren's website for this one, so sirencraftbrew.com, look for the Rainbow Project. All the details are on there. You will be able to buy a limited edition case of all 7 beers with a unique glass after next weekend. If it's anything like last year, those cases will go quickly. And then finally for the news, it's all about the beer jam. The Pot Liquor Kitchen range is expected to launch in the UK early next year, containing only beer, sugar and a citrus fruit extract. So this is the world's first jam made purely from beer and comes in 8 flavours, including Ale, IPA, Oatmeal Stout and Porter, and have got only beer, sugar, pectin, and a citrus fruit extract used as a gelling agent. So these are going to be 450ml jars containing around 225ml of beer, but the alcohol is removed during the cooking process. They'll retail for around £4.50, and the company that make them also make other flavours of jellies and jams, including wine, coffee, apple and carrot cake. So that's a bit of a mixed bag of news for our return, but like I say, trying to sift through 8 weeks worth of news to bring stories that you want to hear was a tough job.
Indeedy. Okay, so great. That's our first bit of news for the season. A lot more to come, I'm sure. But we've still got our first beer to get through tonight, mate. And that second beer's in a big bloody bottle, so let's have a little bit of a chat. You've almost finished yours.
I didn't pour the whole bottle.
Oh, did you not? I poured all of mine.
I was just going to top it up a little bit now, actually. I wanted to get a bit of a taste. I wanted to let a little bit sit in the bottle. And then I just wanted to bring it together a little bit.
Now, I was wondering how a beer like this, without having tasted it, could have done so well at a place like GBBF. But tasting it, it's got those real ale characteristics that we know those drinkers would love. You know, a lovely malt profile on there. Very subtle hops, subtle bitterness coming through. Out of the bottle, it's got great clarity on it. It's a great tasting beer. It's got lovely sweetness to it. It's got that residual bitterness that we mentioned before, but without being too bitter. How are you finding it?
I'm really enjoying it, actually. In anticipation of you saying something like that, I'd actually done a little bit of research in terms of how does a beer become the champion beer of Bitterton. So basically, what will happen is the beer will get nominated at its local regional CAMRA festival or awards for the style that it is. It will win that award, or it will do well to that award, and they will then get put forward to the National Champion Beer of Britain Awards, which are then judged at the Great British Beer Festival, and then based on it's all blind tasting as well, so based on flavours and what the judges are enjoying, that's how it goes from kind of the Welsh Valleys to becoming Champion Beer of Britain. It's not necessarily about what the people at the festival were drinking, it's about what the judges thought in the blind tasting.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was thinking more rather than GBF, but CAMRA as a, that real ale audience. I can see them going for this beer.
Absolutely. I mean, and I can imagine this. Obviously, the Great British Beer Festival is renowned for featuring cask beers. This would be fantastic on cask. I think it would just bring a completely different edge to it. It would maybe make it even more smooth than it is now. It's kind of the sort of beer that you would expect to win the Great British Beer Festival in terms of colour, but certainly in terms of the flavour profile, the flavours in there are just really, really strong. I mean, there's some citrus, there's some tropical fruits going on in there, and then you've got that caramel maltiness in the background that really comes through to a nice, easy, bitter finish. It's just so well balanced. Yeah,
it's just lovely and soft up front with tongue tip sweetness and a bit of bitterness lying at the back. Just a lovely pint, really.
It is, and it's clearly having the intended effect, because Cwtch in Welsh actually means cuddle, and that's what it's brewed to have that sort of effect on the drinker. So clearly you're enjoying your Cwtch, and you're enjoying the effect that it's having on you, mate.
Yeah, I always like a cuddle. That's for sure. Now do we have a little bit of a listener segment, mate?
We do, just because there's been quite some listener involvement over the summer. So first of all, wanted to say thank you to the listeners for bearing with us over the summer and the series of summer specials that we put out. It was an extended break that we were on this summer, shows coming out fairly intermittently, so thanks to everyone for sticking with those and for giving us the feedback that you did give us, and particularly around our final summer special that we recorded live at Hot Burns and Black. People seem to really enjoy that, and if you did enjoy that and you are based in London, we are going to be doing more of those, and we'll be releasing details of the next one in the next few weeks as well, so keep your eyes out for that. The next thing that I just wanted to mention was that we have been nominated for the UK Podcast of the Year award, which did come as quite a surprise to both of us actually, when we knew we had put ourselves forward in this for this event, but we thought, we might get something in category, we might get a nomination in the category, and then the shortlist came out, and there we were in the shortlist for the UK Podcast of the Year. So a big thank you to all of our listeners that firstly nominated us for that, but then secondly have also voted for us for that award, and those awards are actually this coming weekend. So we'll have news on next week's show as to how we fared in that particular event. And then finally, just a thank you to all of those people that filled out our listener survey that we was running over the summer, and in particular the 3 people that won the bottles of beer that we randomly selected. So Alex Clark at Alex53HHP, Steve Barlow at Rio Barlow, and Gareth Langston at Kolu Leeds. You guys all win yourself a bottle each of Brewdog's last releases. But also one more mention that I do want to give. One of the first 3 people that we chose randomly got in touch, and I'm going to read the email because it's such a great email. Hi Steve, this is amazing news and it's great that I won this prize. Problem is I live in Canada and would hate to imagine the price and problems of sending beer here. So sadly I feel I must say pick another lucky person. This is with a heavy heart and hard to type, as I would love to try this beer. On the off chance that it can be done, here are my details. John Day, you can find him on Twitter at John Peps Day. Really sorry we couldn't send the beers to you, mate. But thanks for listening to us from all the way in Canada, and thanks for getting involved in our listener survey. It was just an opportunity for us, mate, to really thank our listeners for sticking with us over what has been quite a big summer for us.
Indeed, and John, if you ever find yourself in London, not London, Ontario, but London, UK, let us know. We'll meet up and have a beer with you. As a thank you. No, that was great. Okay, any final words on the Cwtch?
Nothing that I've not already said. It's an enjoyable pint. It's easily a sessionable beer.
Yeah.
At the percentage it comes in at. Lovely example of a red ale. Fruits up front, creamy malt caramel at the back end. Everything you want in this sort of beer.
Yep, indeed, I agree. So let's get into our next beer, which is a huge... Is this what they call a bomber bottle, or is it just a big fuck-off bottle?
This is bigger than a bomber bottle. This is actually a wine bottle. It's 750 mils. So bombers are 660 mil.
Ah, okay. So this is from Brew By Numbers. It's 1402. It's a Tripel Wai-iti. Now I don't know if that's the name of the beer or if that's the hop that's used in it, or one of them anyway. An aromatic hop, one of the new hops fresh to the table, as the hops list likes to say. Right, a Tripel. It's nice to start the season with a Tripel or a triple.
It is. And this was a beer that the Brew By Numbers were very keen on us to feature on the show. So the guys got in touch and said they'd like to be part of this season, and suggested this beer for us. They gave us the beer, so thanks to Chris and the guys at Brew By Numbers for not just the beer, but for the wonderful glasses as well that they gave us to enjoy the beer from. Which
my wife is using as a Coke glass because she loves how heavy it is on the base. Sorry, guys.
Yes. Anyway, and a beer that is exclusively available from Ebria. So the only place you can get the bottled version of this is from Ebria or from Brew By Numbers themselves from their Railway Arch. And we've also got an interview coming up at the end of the show with Tom from Brew By Numbers that tells us all about how the brewery started, about where the inspiration came from for this beer, and about what's coming up next for Brew By Numbers. So make sure you stay tuned at the end of the show for that.
Indeedy. And straight out of the bottle, this beer is bubbly as fuck.
Oh, yeah. It is really, really lively. I've poured a massive head on mine, but it's a lovely, great big white fluffy head. You've trumped me with the head on your glass.
Mine is currently about 8 fingers, but I'll let that settle down a bit.
Your first mouthful is going to be all foam.
Yeah.
Right?
It's settling down slowly. It's got a lovely thick lemon juice look to it. At least in mine. Yours looks a bit darker, but it might just be the light in your room that I can see via the camera.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a bit of orange, sort of light amber colour on it.
Mine's really straw coloured. How peculiar.
Very. Well, I mean, they came from the same batch. They were both given to us at the same time.
So I'm going to try and fight my way through this foam because I don't want to wait until it's settled down. So, what are you getting on the nose?
The nose is absolutely stunning. It's all lemon. It's almost like a lemon meringue pie on the nose. I'm getting lemon. I'm getting a hint of sweetness, some creaminess. There's maybe a little nod of Belgian-ness in the background, but then obviously Tripel is a Belgian style, so you would expect that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the aroma is just incredibly inviting.
Oh fuck it! Let's. I'm going to fight through the foam, mate, and see.
Okay. Get up from here.
Yeah. Cheers.
There are some incredible flavours going on in there.
Yeah, there's getting some lovely flavours from the yeastiness. I mean, obviously you're getting that kind of continental flavour through, but it's very light. It's not overbearing like some Belgian styles can be.
I think there's just nods to the Belgian style in the background. I mean, I'm not being overpowered with that Belgian yeast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also a beer. It says on the label that it's been lagered for 6 weeks as well. So that would probably help him with the effervescence that we're getting off of it, the feel of it in the mouth, the crispness that we're getting from it. For me, it's just that kind of lemon meringue pie is coming through in the flavour a little bit. You get a big hit of lemon up front. The citrus just whirls around in the mouth, and then it just finishes on this incredibly crisp finish. Hardly any bitterness in there whatsoever.
Yeah, the label also says it has a lemon zest in it, and you can kind of pick that up in the flavours as well. But it has very slight yeast profile to it, kind of like a lovely sourness coming through.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so light. It's just, you can imagine this flavouring, like you said before, a lemon meringue pie. You're getting the aromas off the head when you were smelling it earlier. But I can imagine this wrapped in pastry. It's lovely.
Yeah. And again, it hides its ABV incredibly well. Now, this is a beer, it's 8.5%.
Yeah.
I'm not getting that from it at all. I imagine by the time I've worked my way through a 750ml bottle, I might be feeling it a little bit, but certainly up front, you don't get that big booziness from it. It's very well hidden, very well balanced in the beer.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you now, I'm finishing this bottle tonight.
Same here.
Yeah.
There's no way any of that is going to waste. It's just, it's absolutely incredible.
I just love how it obviously has that Belgian yeast kind of standing up in the middle of it, but it's not overbearing. The sourness really calms everything down. Those lemon flavours coming in. Very faint wheatness coming through as well. It's just, it's just a lovely drinkable beer.
It is. I mean, again, Brew By Numbers are one of these breweries that do produce consistently good beer, and we're not just saying that because obviously they've given this beer tonight. I've had quite a lot. I actually surprised myself when I was looking through my Untapped check-ins on Brew By Numbers beers, just how many of their beers I've had. Considering the amount of variations of all their beers there are. For me, they're one of those breweries that you are going to get consistently good beer from. No matter what the style is, it's going to be a good example of that style. And I think, again, this is just another example of that. It's incredibly well produced. It's full of flavour. It's full of character. It's incredibly well balanced. And it's a beer that, even sat here on a Monday night recording the show, is making us want to drink 750 mils of an 8.5% beer.
Indeed. It's just, it's really nice. It's a great way to start the season off. This and the Cwtch. Like a combined lemon cuddle.
There you are.
Now, while we're finishing this beer off, well, not quite finishing it. I've still got half mile left. But as we're heading towards the end of, obviously, the show, we've got a few things to get through. So, Instagram of the week, mate. Do we have a prizeless prize?
Of course, we're back. We're back with season 8. We're back with the prizeless prize as well. I've been keeping up with the amazing pictures that are being posted all summer long, and it's great, again, how many people get involved in the prizeless prize competition on Instagram. If you want to get involved, all you've got to do is you've got to put a picture on Instagram of whatever beer you're drinking, use the hashtag cheers guys, we'll pick it up, and hopefully your picture will catch my eye when it comes to selecting a winner. So this week's winner is from @blue_Zulu for this image of a Cantillon Creek, which really just stood out for me. The colours worked really well. That's up on our Instagram feed. It's in the show notes. Check it out and make sure you have a go at entering the competition next week, and you too could win your very own great big box of nothing.
Yeah, and if you want to see what the Instagram of the week is, you don't need to be following us on Instagram. You can go to the website. Every entry is linked from the show notes, and which you should also be able to get to from your iPhone client or whatever you're using to listen to your podcast. So always check them out. Lovely photos coming through. And finally, as we're finishing this beer, a segment that we still haven't found a way to segue into.
We still don't know where this belongs, do we? That's obvious.
It's Hop Topic. What's your hop topic for this week, mate?
Okay, I mentioned this not last week. Mentioned this earlier on in the show, and that was the London Craft Beer Festival, fairly enclosed space with a live DJ playing quite loud, bassy, thumpy music. Now, I'm sure there are a whole world of people that enjoy that sort of thing, and if you do, good luck to you. But it's not my sort of thing. And it's particularly not my sort of thing in an enclosed space, and it's particularly not my sort of thing at a beer festival where I like to talk to the friends that I've gone with about the beers that I'm drinking, rather than feeling as though I have to shout over a DJ that it seems to be getting increasingly louder and more excited. Mm-hmm. So this week's hot topic is what's your thoughts on music at beer festivals? I think I've made mine quite clear. So I'm quite keen to hear what you think, mate.
I think much alongside your thoughts. You go to beer festivals to talk to people and to meet people and to talk about. You can probably tell this beer's getting to me already. You go there to meet your friends and talk about the beers that you're drinking. You don't need to have to fight the music, and especially in an enclosed space, like you say, we're not there to be at a nightclub. We're not there to listen to the DJ. The music should be incidental and giving someone to listen to, as if they might just be hanging out by themselves or whatever. It should be background noise. It shouldn't be something that you're fighting against to make yourself heard with, standing less than a foot apart with someone and you're having to shout. Is just not on. There's enough noise with just everyone else talking to be able to hear what someone's saying to you rather than having to also combat the music. So keep it down.
I mean, just two other examples that I want to give before we open it up to the listeners is one a festival that I clearly absolutely love and rave about. Indie Man. They have a number of rooms, and one of the rooms has a DJ in it and has live music in it. And again, that's great, because if that's what you want, you can go to that room and you can have that experience. But you still have two or three other rooms where you can go to, and you've just got the noise of the crowd, which I quite like at a beer festival. And then the other example was, again, in direct contrast to the London Craft Beer Festival. I mentioned that I went to the local festival at Whittam Hockey and Cricket Club. They had a live singer. Now, we were sat next to the stage, but we were still able to have a conversation over the live singer. And I just think it's a case of balancing the space that you've got with the type of music you're offering. If you're going to do it, fine. But as I say, for me, it's not a must for beer festivals. So I'm keen to know what the listeners think. So if you want to get involved, use the hashtag Hot Topic and let us know your thoughts on music at beer festivals. We'd also appreciate your thoughts on where this segment sits in the show.
And don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes, on Stitcher, or on your podcast client of choice, and also to our newsletter, where we will email you once or twice a week, depending on how many episodes we're putting out. And we'll only ever email you when there's a new show out for your listening pleasure. So you can go to the website, which is beeroclockshow.co.uk, and you'll find the details there on how to subscribe to the newsletter. Right, mate, I think... Any final thoughts on 1402 from BBNO?
Not a lot I can add that I've already said. I mean, even as it's been airing in the glass and it's warming in the glass a little bit, there's still those big lemony flavours in there. It's still like drinking a lemon meringue pie, as far as I'm concerned. It's got a lovely finish to it. It's just a really enjoyable beer. I would say give this one a go. If it's one that you see on anywhere, or you feel inclined to buy it from a website, give it a go. I don't think you'll be disappointed with this one. It's an excellent example of how to use, and I'm pretty sure it is just the single hop in this. So it's just the Wai-iti hop, a single hop triple with the addition of some lemon zest. Absolutely fantastic, stunning beer.
Indeed, and as mine's warming up in the glass, it's getting a little bit more body, but it's keeping that lovely hint of Belgian, hint of lemon, all coming together in a nice, smooth, far too drinkable 8 and something % beer. It's just dangerous, especially with a wine bottle size serving to get through.
Very dangerous, yes.
But yeah, like Steve said, go check it out, and if it's on, treat yourself. Don't forget, you can get your beers from Ales by Mail, Beautiful Beers, and Ibria, who all now offer a 10% discount to Beer O'Clock Show listeners on any beers from their websites. Check out all the details on our beer list page. Actually, it's not the beer list page anymore, is it?
No, we've changed it again. No. It's back to being the Season 8 beer list, I think.
It is. You keep changing it around me. Go to the Season 8 beer list page on the website, and you can get the discount codes there. They're at the bottom. Look for the logos. You'll get the links through to their stores, and the discount codes are actually on our page. Make sure you just get those. What's coming up next week, mate?
We've got another award-winning beer on next week's show. This is the beer that won the recent Britain's 100 Hottest Beers, Wylam's Jakehead IPA. And if that wasn't enough, we've also got our number one fan, Miles Lambert, joining us for the review, because Wylam are a brewery that are quite close to Miles' heart. They're not far from where he lives, and he's always been a massive advocate of Wylam and their Jakehead IPA. So it will be great to welcome Miles to the show.
Indeedy. Don't forget to listen all the way after the tinkly music at the end of the show with our interview, or with Steve's interview, with Tom from Brew By Numbers. You can find us online at beeroclockshow.co.uk, on Twitter at beeroclockshow, on Instagram at beeroclockshow. Steve's on Untapped at beershowsteve. I'm there at beershowmark. I think that's all. I don't think I've forgotten anything. It's been a
No,
while.
no, but we should probably say that as you're looking for those, you're actually looking for a slightly different Beer O'Clock show now.
Yeah,
Because we are, as of tonight, sporting our new clothes, as one would say. We have a brand new logo.
indeedy. Gone is the sunburst. Now we've got lovely new branding. It should be showing up on your iTunes client already. It'll be on Twitter. It'll be everywhere else.
So just a thank you to Paul Young, who can be found on Twitter at Mr. Artiste, for designing that for us, because he did do it in return for a box of beer. So thank you very much, Paul, for our lovely new shiny clothes.
An absolutely stunning hand-drawn logo it is. We are very pleased. Right, until next time, mate.
It's been the highlight of my week.
And mine. Bye-bye.
It's Beer O'Clock and we're at the centre of the beer capital for another Behind the Beer with Tom from Brew By Numbers. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for coming down.
Tom, you're one of the founders, the co-owner, brewer here at Brew By Numbers. And this week we've been featuring one of your beers, quite a special beer. It's the 1402 Wai-iti Tripel.
Yes.
Where did the inspiration for this beer come from?
Well, it started with the first version, which is 1401, which is made with mosaic hops. A little while ago, Dave and I made a trip to Belgium, and one of the standout beers at the time was the Duvel Triple Hop series. And that year, they've done many different versions of them with Cwtch, Citra, Syrian Goldings, but that one was with mosaic. And I think that beer just really spoke to us, and we really enjoyed it, and we took quite a lot away. Thought, let's try and do our own interpretation of it. So we decided to use mosaic hops as a finishing hop. We used I think they used Syrian Goldings in the boil. We used SARS or something like that. So we stayed the recipe stayed fairly similar. We used our house yeast. And this is the Wai-iti one's the second version of that. So another hop that we're really into at the moment, another New Zealand hop that we really love. Wai-iti, get a lovely sort of lemon character from it. It's very sort of low pine as well, big sort of lemony flavour. It worked really well with the yeast. And as Chris was saying earlier, as it's aging, it's really changing, and you're starting to get a lovely fusion of the yeast and the hops together.
Okay, and you say this is the 1402, there was a 1401. Tell us about the numbering system. How does it work? Because it's all about the numbers for you guys, isn't it? How did you come up with that system of designing and labelling your beers?
Well, it started from homebrew days. We were basically making relatively simple beers, such as a saison. Normally that would get a guile number in the series. That evolved into the style number. And then what we'd do is to make something that's more originally ours, we would take the single batch and we'd split it several different ways, and we'd do different things to it. So we might use different yeasts, we might do different hops, different dry hopping. And then the idea being is that we'd take the best one of those and we'd do that one again, and we'd split it, we'd do different things to it. So if you think of it like as branches on a tree, you start from a fairly central point, and hopefully you kind of move out onto one of the branches with something that's more original, more interesting. And so it was born out of that. So the second set of numbers became the recipe number, and the first set became the style. We've released over 90 different beers so far, so it's been sort of a really good way of categorising everything to keep track. And it's just very easy for us to create something new without having to sort of redesign a label or anything. It gives us a lot more freedom to experiment and express the beers that we'd like to make here.
And would you say you had such a thing as a core range of beers, or are you constantly looking to try new variations and to innovate on styles?
Well, certain numbers seem to stick. Either we really like them, or they go down really well, or people say nice things about them. So we tend to try and repeat those. Other ones we may revisit, just maybe we feel that we didn't quite do it justice the first time. We want to try it again. But yeah, we like continually doing new things. And it's something I think sort of pioneered by the Colonel and other brewers like that, where they'll just release a pale ale, but they'll change the hopping for the customer. Generally, they want sort of consistency, and they want you to do the same version over and over again. But obviously, that can sort of turn it into more of a factory process, and we want to use different hops. We want to try new things out. We want people to try new things as well. So I think initially there's a little bit of resistance to that, but now people sort of embrace the fact that we will have a style always in stock, say Saison or a Session IPA, and then within that they've got lots of choices or newer versions that they can try. So yeah, it's really important, and also sometimes it's very hard to get hold of the hops again. So one of the beers, Nelson Sauvin, one of our favourite hops from New Zealand, that's becoming really hard to get hold of. So yeah, it's a shame. We'd love to do more beers involving that hop, but yeah, we've had to sort of move away from that and try with new things. But yeah, that's part of the reason for it, definitely.
Okay, and said at the outset that you're one of the co-founders, co-owner. You brew a little bit here. Give us the history of Brew By Numbers. How did you start? How did you get involved in brewing, and what was the decision that took you to become a commercial brewer?
Sure. Well, Dave and I met a long time ago whilst we were travelling Southeast Asia on a climbing tour. Both became really good friends and kept in touch. I came back. Dave spent another couple more years, and whilst I was back, I moved to London from my home of Herefordshire, and I was doing freelance sound work, which paid me reasonably well and gave me a lot of free time. So what I would do is I was starting to get into brewing through a friend that worked at a small brewery down the road called the Colonel, and they've grown a little bit since. But Toby started bringing around these beers, and I was blown away by the ingredients. Very simple ingredients, but the amazing flavours, spectrum of flavours they're getting from the New World hops and things. So I was really getting into it there. On the other side of the world, New Zealand, Dave was sort of experiencing the same thing, because craft beers are a little bit more established over there, a bit sooner. And so when Dave came back, we had a good chat about it, and I had a bit of tax money I didn't need to pay until January, so yeah, we invested, we spent it on brewing stuff and started making beer in a basement where I lived and worked. And yeah, we just grew it from there, really. We always had the intention that we wanted to make a brewery. That was sort of the goal. And so we started that in summer 2011. Dave had done a small amount of home brewing before, but I hadn't really done anything. And I spent a lot of time, researching, hanging out at places like the Colonel, asking them loads of annoying questions, and enthusiastically rinsing bottles and things like that, just helping any way we could. Just private research and experimentation, really, and really just pushing each other to get there and to get out of the basement and move into a railway arch and things. And so it was we did push it a bit. But sort of fairly young still. We can take it. So that's how it was formed. We started selling 80-litre batches when we were in the basement, which isn't really profitable in any way, but it basically allowed our beers to get out there and to test it in the marketplace. It also makes it a bit easier when you go to a bank and sort of saying, I've got some homebrew, my friends say it's really good, can I have some money please? Which they'll get a similar response. They'll laugh and tell you to go away. If they want to see a product, they want to see something that people they want to see demand in the marketplace for it and things. So really important way to go about it, and also put us in a better position when we're sort of securing money to move into the railway arch.
So where do you find the inspiration for the new beers? Do you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night with an idea, or is it over the course of time something else you've tried, discussions you have? Where do you keep coming up with the new variants on the styles?
Well, initially I think as guys at Brewdog and guys at the Colonel, the other sort of pioneers in this country, guys at Magic what we're doing, they're probably looking to the States for inspiration, and bringing back the pale ales, things like that, the IPAs, doing their own interpretations of them again. And so when we sort of started, we were starting to see that American brewers were drawing inspiration from Belgium and doing their own versions of that. So for us, that's part of the reason why Saison became number one in our catalogue, and we wanted to do something a bit different. We didn't really want to do typical sort of core range. That was the inspiration behind that. But now it's sort of become quite a collaborative thing. We like working with people outside of the brewing industry to get other inspiration, whether it be restaurateurs or winemakers or whoever really. But yeah, again, from drinking other beers and thinking about them, thinking maybe how we could potentially do our own interpretation of it, or what we might like to change about it. We're looking at getting our pilot kit up and running again soon, so hopefully that basically means we can be a lot more experimental without risking 2,000 litres of beer, only 100 litres, which that's kind of important that we have that creative freedom. And again, it's good that our staff are involved in it and can have some creative freedom, so it feels like they have more of an input into the company. So yeah, at the moment it's pretty collaborative, but we'll see how it goes. Always thinking of new things we want to do, always trying new beers, and I really want to do something along those lines. There are a few constraints with timing. I mean, the triple requires 6 weeks lagering, so that takes up quite a lot of tank time, which is unfortunately the reason why we can't do it all the time, because we'd love to have it more. So yeah, things like that. Considerations.
A while back, you got some investment from Brewdog.
Yeah.
What did that enable you to do as a brewery?
Well, it was very helpful at the time, because our parents and families were, they're kind of interested in the idea of us making a brewery, but I don't think they really, without the investment from Brewdog, it didn't really give them the confidence to think that, they have got something here. So, I mean, that was very important, and I think that really helped as well when we went to the bank and asked for money as well. So, although Brewdog, they've got a minority share in the business, and they put in some money. It was less than half of the money that we got. It's long since spent it all, but we still get some help from them with getting hold of hops and some business advice. But it's actually worked out pretty well. I think for it, that we both knew that for it to work, that they wouldn't have any sort of real input into exactly what we do, and I think they knew that if they took too big a chunk, it would probably be a disincentive for us to really sort of go out there and push it. So it's working well at the moment, definitely.
Okay. And what's next for Brew By Numbers?
We're growing. We're always sort of expanding. Just really making sure that the quality of everything's good, and if it isn't, it doesn't get released. So I think it's becoming more and more important now that breweries are sort of really sort of making sure that everything's top quality that they put out. We've got we're looking at ordering a bottling line soon, and some more 40-hect tanks, which mean we can double brew into them. That should hoping to get everything in by the end of the year, which will mean at that point we've got the capacity to do 5,000 hectolitres annual production, which is the low duty limit. Whether we'll do that straight away or not, I don't know, but it'd just be nice to think that we have the space now to grow to that level, and at that point the business should become more stable, and Dave and I can go about doing some more collabs with people, and getting out there a bit more. But yeah, it's just, again, it's this thing, just trying to get some stability in the business, and just to try and get it running smoothly. And that's what we're pushing for at the moment.
So the 1402 Wai-iti Tripel that we've done this evening is available exclusively from eBrewer or at your tap room. Why should people search it out?
I think it's a very interesting beer. It's a new take on a traditional style. I think it really fuses together well. New World hops and Belgian yeast. and yeah, I think it's for people wanting something new. I think the triple as a style, it's very varied. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of not massively exciting ones out there. So hopefully it'll be an interesting beer for people to try, and something quite different that they may have experienced before.
Okay, Tom, and where can people find out more about Brew By Numbers?
We have a website, brewbynumbers.com. We're trying to keep as much information on there as possible. It has a catalogue with all of our beers on. There's also a link to the shop where people can buy things. But yeah, it gives you a lot more information about the styles of beer that we've done, and their numbers, and our reasoning for it, and a bit of description about a bit of background about each style as well.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. We've really enjoyed tonight's beer.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers.